Alright guys, so today we're going to cover the electrical portion of our project. So let's just go ahead and get started. I'm going to jump on into my electrical starter file here. Now my file is just architectural. My structure's hidden. If by chance this is a semester where we've already done the mechanical portion, that's fine. It's just my file here is going to look a little bit different. So first thing I want to do is let's hide our roof. So if you hit V twice, your visibility menu is going to come on up. And I'm going to go down to my roof and just shut that off. So you can see that disappears. And then I also already changed my ceilings. So under ceilings right here, you want your transparency to be set to about 25%. So just click that, make sure you're at around 25, hit OK and OK. Now all that does is that makes it so I can see through the ceilings here. Next thing we're going to do is go into our ceiling plans, but first let's duplicate our ceiling plan level 1. So I'm gonna, under level 1 ceiling plan, go ahead and just right click that, duplicate view. And for now, let's go duplicate with detailing. So you can see I have 2 copies now. We're going to rename our first one level 1 mechanical. And I'm going to say no to that. And on the copy we just made, that is going to be level 1 electrical. Now, if you have multiple floors, you're going to have to do this for every single floor that you have. This building I have right here is a 1-story building, so this is all I need to do. Next thing we're going to change is we're going to change some more visibility graphics settings. So hit V twice again to get back in this menu. And under ceilings right here, we're going to change our transparency to 50%. So just click on this twice. Make that 50%. Then over here on the right, check this halftone. Once you do that, that should be everything we need here. So just close on out. You can see that's going to make your ceiling grid very faint. So we can kind of see mine here. And it's just going to make it a little bit easier to see what's going on. One last thing before we get going is over here in your properties menu, let's scroll on down. Under extents, we want to go to view range and edit that. And the main thing I want to change here is make sure your cut plane is about 4 feet. That's just going to make it so we can see our light switch when we place that. So I already set up one room here just to give you guys an image of what we're going for. So overall, this isn't a difficult assignment at all. It's probably the easiest one. So we're going to place lights in the room. We're going to wire the lights together, and then we're going to place a light switch. Now, depending on how big the room is going to decide how many lights you're going to need. We're going to place a thing called a space, and that's what I have highlighted right here. So if I click on that, in our properties menu here, we have different settings. The important one that we're going to want is our average estimated illuminance, which is shown right here. And that value changes with the amount of lights you have in the room. We're going to aim for at least 200 lux per room. If you go over 200, that's okay. Just don't be under 200. Also, if you have a curtain wall in the room that you're trying to calculate, that's going to throw off the entire calculation. So we're going to ignore the lux value for rooms with curtain walls. Alright, so to get started, first thing is we want to go to the Analyze tab. And right here under Spaces and Zones, there's this space button. And I'm going to go ahead and place these. Now when I place them, you can see I've already placed 2 here. I want to place them in an area where I know I can find them again. Because since there's no tag, you just find them by hovering your mouse over them. So I'm always going to place mine in this left corner, just so I kind of know where it's at. So you can see nothing shows up. I've already placed a couple, so I didn't get the prompt. It's going to ask to load in a space tag. When that question comes up, just go ahead and say no, and then place your spaces. But to actually find them, you just hover your mouse around that area until you find that crosshair, and then click on it. To make this a little bit easier, you're going to want to shut your room tags off. So to do that, let's go over to annotation categories here. And where room tags are, shut that off. Otherwise, you're going to have duplicate crosshairs, and it's going to get a little bit confusing. So I would place spaces in the rooms throughout my entire building. I'm just going to do these couple right here. Next thing we're going to do is go ahead and place light switches. So first let's load one in. So I'm going to go insert and then load family here. Now light switches are under electrical, architectural, electrical power, terminals, and there's switch single. Other place we can find them is if I go back to the beginning, lighting, architectural, and in here there are also switches, but for now we're going to use the other one. So electrical, architectural, electrical power, terminal, just grab any of these switches here. Okay, so once we load that in, I'm going to go to the Systems tab right here, and under Electrical there's this light switch button. I'm going to click this drop down arrow, and under Lighting right next to the light switch I'm going to click that, and you can see my light switches are all right here. So I'm just going to use single pole switches for now. And the important thing we're going to change, or we're going to notice for light switches and for placing our lights, is this menu right up here. So we have these 3 options. We have place on vertical face, place on face, and place on work plane. For place on vertical face, we're going to use this for any wall mounted light and our light switches. So what that means is I can only place this on a vertical wall. So it's going to place right there. I can't place this out in space here. For place on face, if I did that and I place this right here just for a demonstration, if we go into our 3D, you can see I have a light switch in my ceiling. So we don't want that to happen. So you'd go through and you'd place a light switch in each one of your rooms. Usually they're by the door. Next thing we're going to do is go ahead and place our lights. So first let's load in some lights. So I'm going to go to the Insert tab, load family again, and now we're not going to electrical, we're going to lighting and architectural. If you're inside your building, you're going to want internal. If you're outside, go ahead and pick external. Let's go internal for now. And there's all these different lights we can use. You can use any one of them with the exception of the studio light. The studio light isn't actually a light fixture. It's just a floating ball of light. So let's not use that. For my example here, I'm just going to stick with this 2x2 parabolic troffer light. It fits pretty nicely into my ceiling grid. To place that, we're going to go back to our Systems tab. Under Electrical, right next to where we selected our light switch, there's a lighting fixture button. And now is where it gets to be important to change this to place on face. So now once I switch that, I can place this on my ceiling. And if I just place one of them and select my space, you can see that my illuminance level is 23, about 25 lux. So I would just align this with my ceiling kind of. So you're going to want to move it around because lights typically aren't just randomly in your ceiling. And if that one's 23 and looking at my ceiling, doing about 12 or 15 lights will work. So if I just copy this around a little bit, you just got a ballpark on how many lights you're going to need. So with 3 of them, that is 69. And then if I copy this now, just a couple times here, and I'm just trying to keep my spacing consistent by counting my ceiling grid. So now I'm at about 280 lux, so we're good there. So our room has lights, has a light switch. Our last step is the wire. For the wire, under the Systems tab, there's this wire button right here. I'm just going to click that. I'm going to click on the center of this light switch right here. And then the one way you can mess the wiring part up is if you go directly to the light. So I'm going to go out in space kind of, so kind of a midway point, and then I'm going to go to my light. Now I'm just going to keep doing that from light to light. So I'm going to click there, go out in space, go to my light. Out in space, go to my light. And I'm just going to keep doing that. If we look at the room I already did, I kind of daisy chain it around. Now we don't want a closed loop, so what I mean by that is I wouldn't want to do something like this. So this would be wrong. We don't want a closed loop. We want a single line going through our room. Okay? And then that's all you have to do. It's good to, once you place your light switches, go to your 3D view and double check that the light switch isn't like 2 feet off the floor. Double check that your lights are facing down. So mine are facing down right now. If they were facing up, they would look like that. If by chance your lights do come in upside down, just go to a 3D view like this, click on your light. You can see we get this double arrow symbol again. That's just going to flip it so our light's back on the right way. If you have lights in a room and your lux value is not changing, so say I have 12 lights like this in my room but my lux is still 0, double check that your lights are facing the right direction. They might just be facing upwards. And then last thing is, say I want to place lights in a room with no ceiling. Our shortcut for this is going to be kind of a cheater method. So I still have this ceiling here. I'm going to place my lights on anyways. So I'm just going to place a couple lights. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to hide that ceiling. So to do that, I'm going to tab over this to select my ceiling. And then once it's selected, I'm going to right click, hide in view, element. So now my ceiling's gone. I'm going to do the same thing in 3D. So if I come over here, select my ceiling, right click, hide in view, and I want element. I do not want category. So just select that. And now my lights are floating, but they're still associated with that first ceiling plane that we had. So all I would do then is just repeat this process throughout the entire building. Shouldn't really take that long, even if you have a huge building. It's a pretty simple process. So next time, let's see, depending on the semester, next time you will either cover the mechanical portion if it's not in your model already, or you'll start working on your sheets and wrapping everything up for your final project.